bank collapsing is putting cash in your pocket. They had to print a lot of money to save them. It's going to cost taxpayers a lot of moolah. But in the side point, today, those interest rates got really, really better for you. So your home prices are about to go up 10%. Thank you very much, Silicon Valley Bank. You got to thank them because the average price in where I live is $1 million per home. It's going to shoot up by 10%, all thanks to that bank collapse. So you could be upset on one hand by saying, why is there more government bailouts? But at the same time, now all of a sudden your home is up 10%. Can't believe it. All right, let's jump into it, you guys, today, because this is some interesting stuff. HSBC over in Europe is acquiring Silicon Valley Bank, the UK form. So the UK branch of that bank was bought for, get this, £1. Unbelievable. So all-night negotiations led by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and the Bank of England, HSBC has become the leading bidder for Silicon Valley Bank's UK arm, or their only bidder, let's say, £1. I don't know how many bidders they had to have if that was the leading bidder. So they have 3,300 clients. What does that actually mean? Well, if you go down in the article a little bit farther, it's going to tell you that they have $6.7 billion in deposits, 5.5 billion of loans. And they bought $6.7 billion of deposits for $1. Billions for $1. I just can't believe it. So who is this? So if we read the article, it was an all-night negotiation by the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Rishi Sunak. But maybe you should understand who Rishi Sunak is. Rishi Sunak is the Prime Minister, and he is almost a billionaire. This is the United Kingdom's version of Donald Trump having a billionaire running for president, and he became the prime minister. His net worth is twice that of the King of England. And so he is very, very wealthy. He has a lot of stocks. He's worth $844 billion. So you have to look at yourself for a second and say, my goodness, do they ever know how to keep the money in the family? How did he, who used to work for Goldman Sachs, massive bank, be able to shindig himself into this deal, £1 for £6 billion? Unbelievable. You gotta understand that fiction could not be this crazy. So we remember also yesterday that the Israeli prime minister also was tied up in this. Remember that in Israel, they are amazing, absolutely incredible for biotech and electronic innovations. And so it was going to pull them down. And their prime minister also had to say that they were going to guarantee that they were going to overcome the liquidity crisis in Israel. So the United States has decided to bail out the bank. Now, they're doing everything they can to not use the B word, that dreaded B word, bailout. So what they have said is they want to, and I quote, protect deposits in Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank. Remember, there are three banks that collapsed, and that was the second bank that failed this weekend, and said that it will not come at taxpayers' expenses. What a joke. That's not correct at all. If you go look at Jason Furman, he had mentioned that regulators probably needed to do what they did to prevent a potentially chaotic damage across the country. Okay, sure, of course they would. But make no mistake, it does have an expected cost to taxpayers. Of course, they are bailing them out. Now, this brings into another question. Should we be bailing them out? I want to just take that back to some personal responsibility. But again, this is going to raise your home price, what just happened. So out of this chaos, something may be happening good for you. And home prices are going to shoot up 10% because of what just happened. So we're going to get into that a little bit. But now we're going to talk about why, number one, are we bailing people out? If you have a son or something like that, and he keeps getting in trouble, keeps asking for money, you keep paying him, we would call it enabling somebody. If it's in a business sense and governments keep lending money to the banks, they're in essence trying to privatize the winnings and to socialize the losses. I'll say it again. They want to privatize the winnings so that the stockholders are going to make the money. But whenever they lose money, they want to make the public pay for that. And is that right or is that wrong? Well, I think it's wrong. And there's something called moral hazard that we have to look at. In economics, a moral hazard is a situation where an economic actor has an incentive to increase his exposure to risk because it does not bear the full cost of that risk. For example, when a corporation is insured, it may take on a higher risk knowing that the insurance will pay for the associated cost. So, right there is basically what it is. I'm going to show you this picture because I think this is it. The banks take risk, excess risk. And if they lose on it, if they win, they win. If they lose, governments will say, we can't allow you to go bust. They're going to pay you out. And then it just encourages you to take even more risk because you're going to get bailed out every single time. Remember, please, that whenever you are going to risk something for a potential gain, there should be a risk of losing. This risk of losing has not been happening for them at all. They're going to say to you that they are not going to have any risk of a loss. Now, I don't believe that at all. So let's try to share my screen with you. I'm going to show you that there is no such thing as no loss. They needed $25 billion. Okay. This is how much they were short. This is how much they need to continue doing business. 25 billion. That's a lot of money. Okay. So what the government is saying is you give us to the government $25 billion of mortgages. And if you give us 25 billion in mortgages, we will give you $25 billion of cash. So you would say to me right away, if that was the two cases, you would say, well, that's a fair trade. I'm getting 25 billion for 25 billion. So this is the way that the government is going to say, well, we are not taking on any extra risk at all. We're just giving you the same thing, same for same. But that's not necessarily the case. The mortgages, if you've seen most properties, so where I live, the average property last year was 1,500,000. Today, the average property now is 1 million. It is down 30%. 30% on property prices on average. So imagine you had 30% less on this number right here. If it was 30% less of 25 billion, what is it going to be worth? Maybe it's only worth 18 billion or something like that. And so what the government is going to do, it's not worth 25 anymore. It's only worth 18. What they're going to do is they're going to just wait and maybe have to wait 10 years by the time it's worth 25 billion or so. And that way they can say, guys, don't worry, we didn't lose any money. But what if they would have taken that 25 billion and put it into something productive? What if they didn't have to pay the interest on 25 billion that they're going to be doing? Either way, it's coming at a massive cost to individuals who are going to be in this situation. But now comes the second part that I want to show you is how your properties are going to be going up, up in value. Let's try to share with you what the bond prices are doing. Now, it doesn't really matter if we're going to look at the Canadian bonds or the American bonds. We could look at both. But the bonds, if we just go back 1 year, this is what you have to see. There's going to be some dips, okay? So I want you to notice the dip that happened right here in November. There's also a dip that happened in late January and February. And look at the dip now, okay? So just to notice that it went from 4.6 at the top all the way to 2.9. That's a 0.7 drop, okay? Now, there is certain rules that we have to follow, but did you notice that massive, massive drop? So here comes the really, really important stuff. Let me change my screen for you because I'm going to demonstrate for you what is going to be actually happening. So do you remember when we saw that the chart actually had a dip in November, a dip in January, and now there's another dip? Do you remember that? So there is a rule, 1% equals 10% of your home, 1% interest. So if the 1% interest goes up 1%, that makes your home more expensive. That pushes the price down 10% on your home. If we are going to do the complete opposite of that, if the interest rate goes down 1%, then what happens? Your home price goes up 10%. And this is what most people are wanting. Notice right here when it goes down by 1%, down by 1%, down by 1%. Every single time that that happened, your home went up 10%. But if we flip it around and go to the complete opposite, to the green, this is up 1%, up 1%. And so in those cases, you were losing 10% of your home. Let's take this as a real life example now and look at some of the properties that are actually selling right now. And where I live, it doesn't matter where you live, to be honest with you, because this actually doesn't change very much over the course of time. Let's take a look right here. All right, so this is in Toronto. Average home prices. Do you see how it dropped on how many days on market? So the market got faster. And what month was that in? That was the end of January to February. Things started to move much, much quicker. That's a great thing. What is the average price? Remember, this is all properties, condos, homes, and everything. Home prices shot up, and so did condos, shot up. And you just saw that properties were selling faster. Why did that happen again? It happened because those bond rates actually dropped in January and February. So the Silicon Valley Bank that crashed over the weekend dropped 0.7%. That 0.7% will, on average, make your $1 million home go up $75,000 in value. So this is what you got to know, is that bank collapsing is putting cash in your pocket. Now, they had to print a lot of money in order to save them. It's going to cost taxpayers a lot of moolah. But in the side point, today, those interest rates got really, really better for you. So this is something I think that you should be paying attention to. If you were on the fence over the past couple months and you were like, well, humming and hawing where you're going to go. So Canada has already been so bold, some say stupid, to pause the rates because the Canadian dollar has crashed. If you were thinking of selling your home and then you've seen this recent developments happen, you can see that the price has actually been kind of weird these days and it's gone down. We specialize in selling homes. This is what we do every single day. So I encourage you to do some research, because when you're going to be selling your property, you need to know that buyers can afford your home. So when that interest rate drops, it allows the buyers to afford more. And so more activity is going to happen with your home. Okay, so let me give you an example of what just happened today. I want to show you this. Take a look at this property right here. It has some interesting numbers right on the very front. Do you see where it says days on market? Right here, days on market, 1 day on market. It sold in the very, very first day. They listed it for $899,000. Did you see that? $899,000. And it sold for 1.15. It sold for $250,000 over asking in 1 day. Now, they did not have an auction originally, and then they changed it. But the property today sold for $250,000 over in 1 day. Right here, 1 day, $250,000 over. I mean, this right here should be telling you exactly what's going on, is because these properties, as soon as a seller has the option to be able to afford more, they're going to jump on it. And if you go look at the numbers, every single time that those bond rates fall, remember that the mortgage rates follow that. So every time it goes down, people can buy more house and they jump on it. So you're going to see this big bulge as home prices are going to go up for a little bit. It's not a reprieve yet. It follows the bond market. So make sure that you're doing that, you guys. Remember, if you're thinking of selling your properties, you can always go to sellhigher.ca. That's where we help you. Hopefully this helps you out a lot, you guys. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great night.